Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Mega Man 10. Last week we beat the last Robot Master and now it's time for the usual sound effect. That's probably one of, if not my favorite Wily castle themes. I don't know why. Either way, welcome to Wily's castle. When I was originally going to record this, my original idea was actually to have each level be played by a different main character, but then I realized, Proto Man for these levels would take like 20 minutes, and no, thank you. Either way, Wily 1 actually kind of reminds me of Sigma 1 at the start, but it's a bit interesting in its gimmick. Meet the Weapons Archive. The Weapons Archive, with each one, uses a specific set, 3 Robot Masters as its basis. And it'll then use the attack of that specific Robot Master. For instance, it's using Woodman, so it's using Leaf Shield. Each specific piece of the Weapons Archive has a specific weakness. Woodman is weak to Triple Blade, and Gemini Man is weak to the Wheel Cutter, as is Elect Man. Generally speaking, you can figure out what they're going to be weak to just based off what they were weak to in their original game. But this is a really cool idea. I have one issue with it, but we'll talk about that later on. Either way, first off, I like how Wily 1's song kind of has 2 different melodies to it, because it starts off with that really somber tune, but now we're listening to this. It's so good. Wily 1 is the largest level in the game in terms of alternate routes. There are a total of 4 different ways you can get to this stage, and I'm showing you every one of them. The second major path will be as Proto Man, and the 2 side paths that diverge off of the main ones are going to be as base. This castle on the whole, though, similarly to Mega Man 9, does use the older Mega Man mentality with Wily castles in that once you start it, you're in it for the entire trip. There's no going back. If you need to use the shop, you're going to need to get a game over, so on and so forth. The usual stuff, really. So make sure you bring your best. Also, wait, we got the Ballad Cracker or Crasher, I forget which one it is, at the end of the last part. Like I mentioned before, it's basically Metal Blade, only it explodes. It's honestly a really good weapon. It's probably my favorite out of the 3, though I think Screw Crusher might do a bit more damage. Ultimately, it doesn't matter too much to get them. I just like having them. Either way, let's take a look at the first sub-path that we came across right before we jumped down that giant pit in the first half of the stage here. Each half of this level, though, does have one shorter path and one longer path. I actually don't know which one is the shortest of the paths, though. The speedrunners probably know. In fact, what is the speedrun record for Mega Man 10? I'm actually curious about that. Knowing general speed runs for Mega Man, probably about 40 minutes? That sounds about right. Speed Demos Archives. Oh, now we're on the second major path with Proto Man. Proto Man and the Wily Castle do not really get along, obviously due to his hap to defense. Plus, there's one thing I can say about, even on normal mode, Mega Man 10's Wily Castle, it likes to spam some annoying enemies sometimes. Namely the spiders and enemies that like to have a good amount of knockback on you over points where there's a lot of bottomless pits. Though compared to some of the other Wily castles, I think this does a better job at using the actual stage gimmicks that we've had so far in them. Let's see, world record Mega Man 10 80%, 34 minutes, base percent 31, Buster only 46, hard mode 36, Proto Man 34. That's about what I expected. Oh, there's base easy 34. Yeah, around a half hour usually either way. That's about what I expected. I think the longest Classic Series Mega Man game is probably 8, just because those levels can get pretty long. Though I guess Mega Man and Base is probably fairly up there too. Of course, when I say Classic Series, I'm barring like the unusual ones. Shortest one's probably Mega Man 1, if not one of the World games, I would assume. Though actually, I'm not actually sure how long Challenger for the Future actually is. That's like the one Classic Series Mega Man game I've never played. Barring some of just the really bizarre ones like Super Adventure Rockman, though I do want to try that one out at some point. Either way, we've seen all 4 paths, so now it's time to head down to this boss fight for the second volume of the Weapons Archive, this time representing Mega Man's 4 through 6, because the first one was 1 through 3 with Elect Man, Gemini Man, and Woodman. For this, we got Flame Man representing 6, who is weak against the Aqua Shield. Ring Man representing 4, weak against the Solar Blaze. And in the middle is going to be Napalm Man representing 5. Each one of the weapons archives does generally just use the weapon of their Robot Master. Doesn't exactly mirror their pattern, but it is notable that some of them are more aligned than others. I'm looking at the Mega Man 7 representative in total. I believe it's believed that each one of the Robot Masters they selected was basically just Inafune's favorite from that game. Which I can believe, but I have one issue with it again, and that relates to the Mega Man 8 representative we'll be seeing in a few moments. Now, one thing I should note is that in each of the Wily weapon archive, not Wily archive, backgrounds, if you pay attention, there are actually 3 lights in the background on the little squares there. I believe following them left to right, if you actually count the numbers, they actually represent each of those specific Robot Masters' number in the Dr. Wily number series, even if they're the ones made by Dr. Light, like Elect Man or any of the Mega Man 9 Robot Masters. Nice little detail there, but a bit odd at the same time. This last third, honestly, Wily 1 just kind of calms down a bit after the middle portion because it's a lot more simple. There's a bit more instant death because there are a lot of spikes, yes, but on the whole, Wily 1 is probably the easiest Wily 1 we've seen since Mega Man 3, I would estimate. Barring the second NES trilogy's obsession with having 2 castles, that is. Because some might count like Cossack 1 is Wily negative whatever, but to me a Wily castle is the final castle in the game. Also, the castle themes in this game are really good. Not as good as Mega Man 9's, but good stuff. Though one thing I kind of wish they did a bit more, similarly to 9, was rely on your Robot Master weapons a bit, because that's one thing I really liked about 9's castle. They had you use the weapons you had thus far, and that's really good. I like that they actually implemented the techniques from the stages here. I just wish they had implemented a bit more in terms of your own weaponry as well, because yeah, you're going to have everything by this point. There's no way to avoid it. There's no password system you can abuse. Might as well use it, right? Either way, Weapon Archive 3 representing 7 through 9. Mega Man 8 is represented by Frostman, who's weak against Commando Bomb's explosion. He shoots his little frost wave out. The thing I don't like about that is they could have chosen Tengu Man, because then they can not only represent Mega Man 8, but as well Mega Man and Bass. Or Astro Man, for that matter, even. Representing 9 was Tornado Man, who goes down really quickly with Thunderbolt, and representing 7 was Slash Man, weak against the Chill Spike, who is really awkward to hit with it, because the Chill Spike's just a really annoying thing to use as a weakness due to its functions. Proto Man? Is that you? Forget about me. I've caught that Robo-Enza virus. I'm not gonna leave you here. Here, use this. It's just a prototype, but... I guess I'll owe you one now. Also, I should note, I believe the Weapons Archive is the only boss that doesn't really have any changes on easy or hard mode. I think the most that changes is the damage they do. Other bosses have more differences, but the Weapons Archive, not much you can really do with that. Oh boy, Wily 2 can be deadly. There is a lot of instant death in this stage, be it spikes, bottomless pits, or even, I want to say the first instance we've seen in the game for crushing that you could have. That's one thing now that I think about it, the later Mega Man games are really inconsistent with is crush threats. Mind you, not that I mind, because crushing is probably my most anxiety building kind of death to have happen to me in a game. And whenever I'm in a crusher sequence, I just tense up. Mind you, I'm also like that with spikes, but that's just because they're instant kill in so many games that I play to death, and whenever I see a spike, I kind of just go, And hey, now we can finally take a look at this. These platforms we've been seeing throughout the game that can be destroyed with Commando Bomb. We've been seeing those as early as Blade Man's stage, because obviously Blade Man is weak against the Commando Bomb. But that's the first time I can actually do anything about it with this route. Now, something that's a bit sad is, I think I mentioned this back in Mega Man 9, but at the time of this recording, you can no longer add funds to your Nintendo Wii eShop account. And I think by the time this gets uploaded, we might even be close to the point where the shop itself gets entirely shut down. And because that Mega Man 9 and 10 might be some of the first games I've played that there's just outright not going to be any versions available of a certain type of it anymore, because the Wii version of it will be completely discontinued, basically. And if I recall, speedrunning tends to use the Wii or PS3 versions due to faster loading times or something. That sounds about right. And here's the Crushers from Punk stage that we saw earlier. In this stage in particular, I always tend to take my time a bit more just because even though I know I have enough time, Crushophobia kicks in really, really hard. Like, I could have gone over there by now. Probably even gone down that ladder. Nope, gotta make sure, right? We've all done it. Either way, we're coming up on the mini-boss for this stage, which is gonna look a little bit familiar, though I am gonna grab this life energy. Because even though I'm not low, being below half before boss fights always makes you just the slightest bit nervous. Either way, we have Octoball back, and this is the way you should take him out. The Base Buster is good for that, but that's just better. Either way, we want to hug to the right here and actually use the M-Tank we have. You might think this is a bit wasteful. It's really not. When we get back out, hug left, but don't touch the spikes, and you find one of the very few M-Tanks that naturally occur in the game. So, basically, free Yasaichi, I just did there. Again, though, if you're playing the game on easy mode, you won't really have to worry about your life or weapon energy, because there's so many Yasaichis around, it's ridiculous. This part of the stage can be purely deadly, just because look how much opportunity there is to die around me. Though there is an interesting mechanic coming up here that I didn't really touch on earlier. Remember these weird tower enemies from Sheepman stage? Something I didn't talk about with them is that if you jump on their head, they shrink down. You're weighing them down, essentially. I used to kill this guy because I thought he was in my way, but no, you're actually supposed to use him as your platform to reach that ladder, and I find that really interesting. It's like the only time they do that in the game, but yeah, it's at least one time's better than no times. Though the one time makes it a bit more aggravated, they couldn't do it more than once because they clearly knew they could do stuff like that. Now, to go into something I always thought about Mega Man 10. I always figured that at some point in development, Mega Man 10 was maybe intended to be the game that bridged Classic and X. Because a lot of elements just remind me of X. Robo-Enzo reminds me of a precursor of the Sigma/Maverick virus. The whole Mega Man being sick thread could have led to him being his ending that we just never get to see between here and X. There's just a lot of weird things about this game that feel like they may be meant to go further with. At least in terms of the story writing, I should state. The game itself is pretty complete feeling as it is. And I always just have to wonder if maybe they intended at some point for this to be that bridge game, because that has to happen at some point, chronologically. But we're not going to see that for a while. Either way, time for the boss of Wily 2, the Crab Puncher. The Crab Puncher can only be damaged on the eye stalks, however, he likes to try and block him with his claws, like so. If you fire his weakness, a commando bomb, right in the center of that grate where the bubble's being fired out of, when the eyes are tilted forwards, you can actually hit them both at once, making him have basically half the health he normally does. The bubbles are hard to avoid, but overall, this fight isn't too bad. The punch is probably the most annoying attack, honestly, because I just do not know how to dodge it. On easy mode, I believe he starts farther back, or is always farther back. I think he also shoots less bubbles, and on hard mode, he's always a bit closer, shoots more bubbles, and I think it has more angles for the eyes. Like, they're not always going to be equally set back or leaned forward. They might be uneven. I think the triple blade's also pretty good for that fight. Don't tell me I've caught this dang Robo-Enzo too. Treble! We gotta go teach that old Cook a lesson he won't soon forget. I should note, both that cutscene and the Proto Man one between Wily 1 and 2 are only seen in their own campaigns after beating Wily 1. I just kind of interspliced them just to give a bit more interest to what's going on, I suppose. Wily 3 is the weird level for the Wily Fortress, and that's the one that has the exclusive gimmick. You know how Mega Man 9 had the weird elevator wall thing in, I think that was even Wily 3. This is the equivalent to that level, though that's also where they have a good amount of replenishing for you, in the case you're low on weapon energy and such. And you know, I'm always grateful for that kind of design. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention this during the Crab Puncher boss fight. But there is actually a way to destroy the claws if you just shoot them enough, but they have so much HP, and you're just trying to focus on the eyes anyway, that's not really worth it. This is the gimmick for this stage. An elevator section that you control yourself by using the buttons on the left or right of the platform. However, if you stick around the second fourth of the screen like where I am right now, the only thing you'll get hit by is that med tool, more than likely. On any time this happens, basically, this area is very safe. There's still gonna be spikes that you have to avoid, but the platform doesn't have to move at all is what's important. Also, as you can see, I've really learned to love the combo of Chill Spike plus Triple Blade on a lot of shielded enemies. It's really good. Now, when I was younger, I used to hate this level purely because of this section. Because as you might remember, I said I hated these platforms earlier on. For some reason, the platforms itself were already kind of complicated for me because I was always stressed out by them for some reason as a kid. But combining that with water physics made this a really difficult level for me. Except as base, because once I got to this point as base, I just treble boosted away and was basically able to reach the end of the screen. That's why that might be why I almost like playing as base more, just because I get to do more stupid stuff like that nowadays, but as a kid it was because it was the only way I could actually beat the game safely. Because I had trouble here as Proto Man and Mega Man. Especially Proto Man, because, oh god, that double damage. I know I keep harping on it, but it really is disgusting. I'm trying to remember if the little thing in Powered Up did that as well. I don't think it did, but I also have barely used it. Wily 3, admittedly, also probably has some of the most difficult platforming out of the Wily stages. Which, in a way, actually makes sense, because now that I think about it, this is the last proper level in the game. Because the next stage is the boss rush. So I guess it's their way of getting the last charge out of the way. And you know what? I can forgive that now that I think about it. I just realized what they meant me to do here. I've only ever used Rush / Proto-Jet / Treble Boost there. You're supposed to use Wheel Cutter and ride the wall. Huh. At least I think that's what you're supposed to do. If they intend you to make that jump, that's a bit tight, but okay. And time for the second elevator section. If you stay around the same area as last time, you're gonna be pretty good. The spikes, admittedly, aren't too threatening here. I'm trying to remember if on higher difficulties this thing moves faster. I don't think it does, but that sounds like something Capcom would do. Though mind you, whenever I think of elevators and Capcom, I think of that one special mission in Devil May Cry 3. And I hate that special mission. Even though I love Devil May Cry 3, although I think my favorite's probably 4 gameplay-wise. Looking forward to 5, though. This section always used to make me a little bit tense because I, for some reason, never used to wait for the goo to vanish. Because if you're just standard without the traction, I lost. Those jumps are very easy to make. Oh boy. Triple Blade at this point really should be your main weapon, by the way, for going against most enemies, just because it's much more effective than the Mega Buster at basically every count. Let's see, it's Commando Bomb that correctly. And I think this was worth it, because if I recall, there's an E-Tank and weapon energy down here. Yes, there is. Though I am desperately low on a lot of weapon energy, which isn't the best. And Wily 3 is also probably the shortest Wily level out of the ones in this game, because we're already at the boss fight. Gee, I wonder who we got. The room from Mega Man 2? If only we could be so easy. Did somebody ask for a devil? Because we got a devil. Meet the Block Devil. Like all devils, he forms himself up slowly before his weak spot actually shows up, but he is weak against the Rebound Striker. If you bounce around the room carefully, you can get 8 damage in on him, but on the whole, you're going to be more or less spamming it in his face. I think Thunderbolt's also pretty good at dealing damage during this fight, because he never actually moves horizontally, I believe. But that fight can be annoying. I think the higher the difficulty setting, the faster the blocks move, and that's about it. Because I don't think the pattern changes, I don't think the attacks change. I think that's all that actually changes during this fight. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 5, we're taking this charge to Wily directly. See you guys then.